Welcome back, team. So, what exactly do the Democrats say this whole impeachment thing is about? How's it's going to go? What's their position on this? Nancy Pelosi was saying some bonkers stuff over the weekend, which I guess is not surprising. It's Nancy Pelosi, but Nancy Pelosi's out there saying that the president has the right to defend himself in this impeachment inquiry if he wants to. And people would say, well, why would he do that? Here's Nancy telling us all that, maybe the president has some super secret thing somewhere that he just wants to present us. I can't believe this woman's Speaker of the House, folks, but here we are. Play 6.
That vote has not taken place to proceed necessarily with impeachment. But do you think you'll go through all of this and not vote to impeach the president?
That remains with the facts that the president has information that demonstrates his innocence in all of this, which we haven't seen. His transcript of a phone call is tucked away in a highly sensitive, compartmentalized intelligence server, so we can't see that. If he has information that is exculpatory, that means X, taking away blame, then we look forward to seeing it.
It's like maybe he's got some, magic genie in a bottle somewhere who's going to just make him innocent of everything. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, does anyone who's a serious human being listen to her and say, yeah, they're not going to impeach the president. Sure. There's a possible future in which they're going to say, wow, you mean Trump is innocent of all the horrible things we've been saying about him for 3 years now? She speaks to us all like we're idiots, folks. She really does. No one holds her accountable for it. Would you ever vote to not impeach a president? Well, maybe he is going to be defending us against an invasion of space aliens, and at that point, we'll have to just rally around our president, so maybe we won't impeach him then. I mean, that's more or less what she's saying. This is absurd. But she can't give away the whole game here, can't tell us what's really going to happen, which is that all of this pretense that they're presenting information to get to the bottom of this, to get to the facts. We already know the facts. We already know what was said on the phone call. They already released the transcript. So what? I saw today a poll that said that 70% of people, 70% of people in the poll think that the president's conversation was wrong. I don't think it was wrong. I think it was unwise because he should know that there are deep state elements that have access to his conversations that could twist it and do exactly what we have seen happen right now. I think he should have been more careful. But then again, I'm sure some of you would come back to me with, well, Buck, how careful can he be when they're willing to twist his words and lie about him and break the law in some cases to leak about this president or some of his advisors and what they've done? They're willing to do anything, as the Attorney General said. They're willing to justify whatever it is that they think they have to do. They believe it's inherently justified if it's anti-Trump. So how careful could he be? That's another point of view on this, although I think the president probably could be a little bit more cautious in how he speaks about things and what he says. But this then leads us to where they really want to take it this week. The president should testify in his defense. Chuck Schumer, for example, hopping on this bandwagon. Here's what he said. Play 10.
If Donald Trump doesn't agree with what he's hearing, doesn't like what he's hearing, he shouldn't tweet. He should come to the committee and testify under oath, and he should allow all those around him to come to the committee and testify under oath.
I would just respond to Schumer. How dare you? Really? You think that your ridiculous little committee of partisan hacks should be able to pull the president of the United States in, a co-equal branch of government, and harangue him and mock him and try to entrap him perhaps in perjury? No. President Trump did tweet about this and said that he would think about it. And I'm here to say that it would be wrong for the president to do this on many levels. It would be wrong from the perspective of the lack of respect that it would show for the separation of powers. What's to prevent the next administration, the administration after that, from having just a bare majority in the House of Representatives get to pull the President of the United States in and use it as an opportunity to grandstand and assault the President of the United States verbally in front of the whole country for partisan ends? That's the precedent that we should have set here? This is absurd. But these people are absurd. These Democrats who keep saying these things about Trump and who keep making claims about their willingness to respect the system, they are lying. They are lying about this. We know what they're going to do. We know how they feel. We are all smart enough to figure this out if we just spend a moment thinking about it. And yet here you have Senator Chuck Schumer telling us that the president should. Could you imagine for a moment? I mean, this was just like the old playbook, though, isn't it? They've got these routines they go through to try to undermine the president. Remember, originally it was they wanted him to testify to Mueller, that sham of a probe run by Weissman, now an MSNBC analyst, folks. Gee, I wonder what his politics are. They were going to let Weissman and his Democrat attack dogs go after the President of the United States under oath, try to provoke a crisis, a moment perhaps that they would seize on as lying under oath. Keep in mind that when it's a lie and not a lie is something that's always up for interpretation for Democrats. Bill Clinton, did he lie under oath? Of course he did. But they say that wasn't a crime lie. That was just like a personal lie. Huh. There we go. The ends justify the means. Whatever they want, they get. There's no real rules that apply. They're going to have the president testify to the Mueller probe, and now they want to have the president subject himself to Democrats in Congress being able to pull him apart in public and make all kinds of accusations. And then if the president responds, by the way, it would also undermine, in my view, would undermine the Congress, because this president, if he did do this, it would be quite a spectacle. And I worry, because this president's a fighter. I worry about his judgment on these issues sometimes. You do get the sense that if left to his own devices, perhaps he would have testified or would have subjected himself, I should say, to questioning in the Mueller probe. And left to his own judgment and his own devices, I can't say I'm 100% sure that he wouldn't subject himself to this congressional impeachment inquiry. The whole thing it's just a fraud. It's just such a fraud, such a waste of everybody's time. And all these people who are saying that they think the president should be removed from office, if maybe the president should be removed from office. We'll find out in less than a year. It's called an election. There's anybody who believes in our system of government, has good faith in the fact that you should be willing as an American to concede power to the other side when they duly win an election. Anyone who believes in that should think that the deference here, if there's any question about the president's conduct and whether it even could be construed as worthy of being removed from office, the deference should be given to the next election. The deference should be that the system we have is all about the will of the people, ultimately, and that is evidenced through the election process. That's why the president has the awesome powers that he does. It's because the people give that power to him through our system of government. And to take it away from him based on partisan whim and narrative and these lies is just, what do the Democrats really think would happen after that? I always wonder about that, too. If they did manage to remove the president and Vice President Pence all of a sudden became the president of the United States going into a re-election, do they think that we would want to have more lectures from the left about the need to respect our democracy and the system? And they really think that the Trump movement would go away? That the suspicion that many of us have that the political system is rigged by a class of elites who are much more bumbling fools than they are intellectual superiors, do we think that would go away, or would it actually get worse? Would that sentiment be proven to be true, and it would actually just harden? We would become even further entrenched in our opinions of this. We would be even more separated, more polarized, a word the media loves to use. I think we all know it would just get worse. I think we all know that it would by no means dampen the frenzy right now if you had this president removed from office. If anything, I think it would create a massive schism, not just a polarization of ideas, but a schism in this country in the belief that this is now still the country that was left to us by the Founding Fathers, that we still have a system that functions the way it claims to. It starts to get scary when you think about the removal of a president under these circumstances with such a mountain of evidence that they've been trying to remove him from the very beginning, that he is not allowed to be president because they say so. People think this will improve the situation. They're delusional. But the left is very delusional these days. That's one of the reasons why it's so troubling. They have no self-awareness whatsoever. Nancy Pelosi, for example, had this to say about how Trump is mean and he insults people. Play clip 5.
But the president and perhaps some at the White House have to know that the words of the president weigh a ton. They are very significant, and he should not frivolously throw out insults. But that's what he does. I think part of it is his own insecurity as an imposter. I think he knows full well that he's in that office way over his head, and so he has to diminish everyone else.
Classic Nancy Pelosi moment. The president shouldn't insult people because he's a big, dumb, stupid face who shouldn't be the president. Wow. Okay, Nancy. People should really listen to you. You're giving them really fair-minded advice on all of this. But notice how she used the word imposter. I often speak to you about how the Democrats have not accepted the 2016 election. And I mean that. They have not accepted that they lost, Trump won, and that their rejection of him as a legitimate president is, in fact, a rejection of the system that we have. They can't claim to love the system, to want to protect it, to want to hold it close and keep it safe and warm at night, and be upending it, throwing it out in the dead of night because they don't like what the system gave them in 2016. That's exactly what they're doing. Imposter. That's quite a word to use. That's the Speaker of the House, my friends. The most powerful elected Democrat in the country. And she is saying that the President of the United States is not legitimately the president. Those are her words. And it's not the first time this has been said. They have called him a traitor. They have called him a rapist. They have called him a racist. They have called him a white nationalist. And now they're calling him an imposter. If somebody really was an imposter, should you respect the office that they hold and the way that they conduct, the way that they use those powers while in office? Of course not. It's all illegitimate. Well, if Trump really is an imposter and therefore everything that he has done and seeks to do is illegitimate, doesn't that then justify any action whatsoever that the left is willing to take in order to stop him, to slow him down, to make things harder? It's almost like what Attorney General Barr said about the true nature of the left and their willingness to go scorched earth, stop at nothing to obstruct this president. The Democrats themselves tell us this on a regular basis. They tell us what they think of this president, and therefore they also are telling us what they are willing to do to stop him. And the answer to that is absolutely anything.
The 24th of September was when I called for a fuller expansion. The inquiry was going on, but to proceed with the inquiry, and that kind of changed our communication until that day in the room when I said, all roads, Mr. President, with you lead to Putin. Whether it's giving them a stronger foothold in the Middle East by what you did with Turkey and Syria, or what you did by withholding aid to military assistance voted by Congress to Ukraine to the benefit of Putin. 11,000, more like 13,000 by now, Ukrainians have died at the hands of the Russians. They needed that military aid. And with his disparaging remarks about NATO and questioning our commitment to NATO, that's to Putin's advantage. So we do have, shall we say, a candid relationship.
Nancy Pelosi can't be that stupid. I mean, I don't think she's very bright. I think she's cunning. She's not wise. She's not intellectual, but she's cunning. She does whatever she has to do to get what she wants and has been doing it for a long enough time that she's pretty good at it. Everything for the benefit of Putin. They really needed that military aid. Really? Where was wimpy Commander-in-Chief Obama on helping the Ukrainians when it came to Putin? Oh, let's just send them blankets. Let's send them, sippy cups. No, they needed weapons. They needed weapons. Obama wouldn't give the weapons. Trump would. Do you think that Putin liked that? Do you think that was... Someone explain this to me. Oh, and in Syria, where Trump decided to let the battlefield commanders make the decisions necessary to defeat ISIS, that's why it got wrapped up so quickly. The speed of the air campaign, very underreported in the media, by the way, against the Islamic State, dramatically accelerated because of President Trump. Obama didn't want to deal with the risk and the collateral damage, but that also included, when Trump was in charge, blowing up a couple hundred Russians in the desert. Was that doing Putin's bidding? Was it doing Putin's bidding when Trump put more sanctions on Russia than even Obama did? I want to know, what exactly does Nancy Pelosi think are the outer limits of her ability to just make crap up? All for the benefit of Putin. These people are grotesque in their mendacity or mendaciousness. One of those words is right. These people will lie to you. They will come up with narratives that serve a function in politics that aren't rooted in truth or reality, and they will run with it. And they will tell you that they're doing it for your benefit. The fact that Nancy Pelosi is the most powerful Democrat in the country tells you really everything you have to know about the Democratic Party. They are a ends justify the means, say what you have to say when you have to say it. There is no principle of fair play. There is no approach of good faith. It is all just, how do we win and make the other side lose so then we can make them do whatever we want. No rules, no constitutional protections for them. Whatever we say the law is, that is what it shall be. That's Nancy Pelosi's Democrat Party for you. Of course, the New York Times has to attack the single biggest policy maneuver of the Trump administration so far, which is the tax cut. And they're trying to help now. There's a difficulty that Democrats face going into this reelection. By the way, Mayor Pete Buttigieg is now leading substantially in Iowa. My understanding is he has a huge ground game set up in Iowa, more than anybody else. And it makes some sense. He's from neighboring Indiana. He is somebody who appeals to Midwesterners because he's from the Midwest. And if he can win in Iowa, then the storyline becomes, here's this young guy who's got an impressive resume, and he's not old like Biden. And here's this young guy who, if he's a front runner or if he wins Iowa, maybe he should be the front runner overall. And you might have this massive shift in support that would result afterwards. Right? That's his path to, if not outright victory in the primary eventually, certainly being a very powerful vice presidential candidate. Because remember, Democrats there are certain states that this is all going to come down to. In places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Iowa, those are places that Democrats need help if they're going to try to defeat Trump in the election, assuming that Trump is allowed to get to the election before, without being removed by these Democrat partisans. hyper partisans, perhaps I should say. But yeah, Mayor Pete, who knew? Apparently, the Beto approach of being the most woke person ever didn't work. And Mayor Pete's path of relative moderation, hey, I'm going to stop lecturing people about their Christian faith, when it seems that his grasp, Mayor Pete's grasp of the gospel is tenuous. But he's going to stop doing that and just start to sound a little more like he sounds like he might be more reasonable. His policies are not, but he's a left-wing guy. Medicare for all. I mean, he's a left-wing candidate, but he's got some substantial support that seems to be building, particularly in Iowa. I'm expecting somebody other than Biden is going to win that primary. So we got to start thinking of who that's going to be. Hello? We'll talk about her later. Oh, she's still thinking about it. You know she is still thinking about it. I'm thinking about you, America. Does it sound like Hillary Clinton? No. But did you know who I was talking about? Yes. So, but back to the necessity among those in the media to come up with an alternate view of the economic situation right now. They're churning out this machinery of Democrat support from the various newsrooms, the various major media outlets in the country, to say that the tax cuts didn't work really. They didn't work the way they were supposed to. And it really was just a giveaway to the rich, and the usual class warfare stuff all has to come out now. The usual Marxist-tinged, Marxist-sounding rhetoric about giveaways for the rich, and the Republicans are the party of fat cats. You got all these liberal billionaires running around. Silicon Valley run by liberals. Hollywood run by liberals. Wall Street run by liberals. But it's always the billionaire fat cats that are Republican that get all this attention, and people want to throw under the bus in one way or another. So what we have now is the New York Times writing this piece about FedEx. They use FedEx as a prime example of exactly how this didn't work, of how its tax bill, how FedEx cut its tax bill to zero. Now, keep in mind that GE very famously went for a while and paid no federal income tax, but GE wasn't vilified for doing that because it became a left-wing company with very close ties, I believe under Immelt, to President Obama. So GE was left, and GE essentially had become largely a financial services company that happened to also make some stuff and have engineering and create light bulbs and machinery and other things. But GE Capital became a huge part of the business, which is why GE is now just in shambles as a great American corporation. That's a story for another day. How FedEx cut its tax bill to $0. The company, like much of corporate America, has not made good on its promised investment surge from President Trump's 2017 tax cut. Now, there's a reason that they're running with this story. They're using this as the pointy end of the spear, the thin end of the wedge, for the narrative the Democrats will need in this primary, that this economy right now that we are in, that is low inflation, low unemployment, super high stock market, lots of economic growth. I mean, that this is bad somehow. Or not what it should be. If only you put Democrats in charge. If you just handed over 1/5 of the economy entirely to the Democrat central planners, to the socialists who now run the Democrat Party, if you would just be willing to do that, then we would all have an end to economic anxiety. Then we wouldn't have to worry about going bankrupt from health concerns. We'd all have good housing and good jobs and good this and good that. And the more they talk about this, the more it reminds me of how in the Soviet Constitution, I mean this, in the Constitution of the Soviet Union, there were very explicit promises made about everyone having a job, everyone having food, everyone having clothing and a place to live, and even, I believe, 2 weeks of paid vacation every year. I mean, the Soviet Constitution was like, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to have everything they need. That was the promise. Oh, that's right. What is it? Bring us back here to my friend Attorney General Barr, the deification of the state in place of God. That's right. The Soviet Union was going to give you everything. It's a very large country, very rich in natural resources. Everyone's going to work for the common good. How would this not work, they were saying. And we know. Not only did it not work, but it led to tremendous evils and misery and slavery and despair. Unimaginable levels of violence and oppression and torture and totalitarianism. But it was all supposed to be giving everybody everything they need. Now, we are not the Soviet Union, and I'm not pretending we are, but when you start hearing people promise that everything will be provided for you and you have to do nothing in response, all you have to do is vote for them or put them in power, you should be very, very skeptical. And I would argue you should be very concerned, really, that this is a sign that things are going to go quite awry. But so they use FedEx and they say, see, here's a company that isn't paying taxes the way that it's supposed to, that FedEx is another one of these corporations that promises to invest in American workers and all this stuff, and they haven't done things the way that we would want them to if we were running those corporations as Democrat government officials, right? Well, it turns out FedEx isn't going to take this lying down. They put out a statement, and it was a doozy, from Frederick W. Smith, the chairman and CEO of FedEx Corporation. Here's what he put out as an official statement. Quote, the New York Times published a distorted and factually incorrect story on the front page of the Sunday, November 17th edition concerning FedEx and our billions of dollars of tax payments and billions of dollars of investments in the U.S. economy. Pertinent to this outrageous distortion of the truth is the fact that, unlike FedEx, the New York Times paid zero federal income tax in 2017 on earnings of $111 million, and only $30 million in 2018, 18% of their pre-tax book income. Also in 2018, the New York Times cut their capital investments nearly in half to $57 million, which equates to a rounding error when compared to the $6 billion of capital that FedEx invested in the U.S. economy during that same year. I hereby challenge A.G. Sulzberger, publisher of the New York Times and the business section editor, to a public debate in Washington, D.C., with me and the FedEx corporate vice president of tax. The focus of the debate should be federal tax policy and the relative societal benefits of business investments and the enormous intended benefits to the United States economy, especially lower and middle class wage earners. I look forward to hearing promptly from Mr. Sulzberger and scheduling this open event to bring further public awareness of the facts related to these important issues. Wow. First of all, I think it's a fantastic idea. Of course, the New York Times, Sulzberger is not an impressive guy. The New York Times will never, not only would the New York Times not send their publisher, who inherited the company, but side note, their publisher to do this, they won't even send any of their experts, any of their columnists, any of their editors for this debate. I can almost guarantee it. I mean, I'm guessing, I'm looking into the future here, but you'll see. They won't send it. This would be quite worthwhile for the public to see, wouldn't it? If the New York Times is going to call out FedEx on its front page for profiting and effectively lying about what it would do so that it would get the tax cuts, that it would do the stock buybacks to push up the stock price, to help the executives and help the shareholders and not help the common man and not put the investments in, and class warfare, baby, this is how they do it. If the New York Times is going to write that piece on its front page, then why shouldn't the New York Times be willing to meet the chairman of FedEx? I mean, this is not some random internet troll. The chairman of FedEx and CEO to a public debate on what's really gone on here. I'll tell you why. They are scared, And they are right to be scared because he would mop the floor with them. The New York Times wouldn't even exist if it was not for ideologically driven left-wing billionaires like Carlos Slim and other very connected individuals. The New York Times was going out of business, my friends. And the New York Times has a tremendous legacy advantage because it's been around for long enough that its brand alone is worth a lot of money, but the people running it today are benefiting from what was done decades and decades before them. FedEx, on the other hand, shows us not just what the difference is between a company that is employing a lot of people and that is operating as a free market entity that's not essentially an artistic endeavor. The New York Times is, for a lot of liberals, a largely artistic endeavor. They support it the way you'd support your local Philharmonic. FedEx has to deliver in every sense. And so here is a company that the left has always been a little bit uncomfortable with, doesn't really like, because FedEx took what had been for a long time a government function. In fact, one of the explanations for why government needs certain power, certain authority, certain funding. Oh, we need roads, we need a post office. Well, let me ask you, if you were going to send your Aunt Ethel her brooch from the Revolutionary War era, and you have to get it there overnight before she goes and gives her big speech to the Rotary Club, are you going to take Aunt Ethel's brooch to the post office, or are you going to take it to Federal Express? I think we all know the answer. Federal Express, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's pretty amazing what it's able to do. It's stunning that you can pick the time of delivery, and that, I believe I actually looked at this once because I FedExed something to myself that was very important and valuable, and then I got a little worried. I think they have a either 97 or 99% successful delivery rate. Not meaning not that they lose things, meaning that they get it there when they say they're going to get it there. I think it's 97 or 99% of the time. That's pretty impressive considering what they do. And this is where the free market has shown you that it can do something that the government had been the sole provider of for a long time, and in fact do it much better than the government can, and create jobs in the process and productivity and give a service. So FedEx is a perfect target for them because they really don't like it. Privatizing the postal service, essentially. That's or giving a private alternative to the postal service. And they say that they haven't hired enough, they haven't spent enough money the way they said they would. Well, that's because it's a private company. And it's now paying less in taxes. Keep in mind, corporations don't pay taxes, people pay taxes. So all that FedEx having a lower tax rate means is that there's less money going to the government from FedEx, which means FedEx has more money to pay people and to invest in things than it would have otherwise. All those people that is paying, by the way, are paying taxes. So you tax the company, and then the people that get paid by the company, they pay taxes to the government too. This is also where we get to the onerous tax burden that Democrats not only defend today, but want to expand dramatically because they think they'll be better stewards of the money that you have, that you make, than you will be. They know more than you do. I would love to see this debate between the chairman of FedEx and anybody from the New York Times, because what it would show us is that, once again, the central planners don't know what they're talking about, are rooted in faulty assumptions, and people that believe in and rely on free markets are the ones who are actually pushing us forward and doing good things for this country that everybody benefits from.
In saying that the conditions on our border, the mass expansion of detention camps, qualifies as a concentration camp. Everybody thought it was nuts, right? Until we realized this week that Stephen Miller is a no-joke, die-hard white nationalist. This is what our policy has become. And in order for us to rectify and to begin to heal as a country, he has got to go. I feel duty-bound to note that Miller's defenders, I think Miller himself would say, I'm Jewish myself, I come from a Jewish family, and it's offensive for you to invoke that word, particularly as
regards someone who is Jewish.
Well, I'm sure that's also the way in which he's weaponized his identity, right? Like, they say, and there's the color of your skin and the identity you are born with does not absolve you of moral wrong. The perfect looking person to advance horrifically inhumane immigration policy would be someone that looks like me or someone that looks like someone in this audience, right? Because that's what provides the cover for these incredibly damaging and dangerous policies. So I'm not here to weaponize my identity, and I don't think any public servant should weaponize their identity in order to advance white nationalist ideas, period, punto. I don't care who you are.
That's who would be in charge if the Democrats had their way. But people like Ocasio Cortez, people that share the thoughts of Ocasio Cortez and Chris Hayes and MSNBC. Just remember that, folks. I just played. There's so much crazy and wrong in what she said that I don't even have time for it today. But just remember, the people that want to tell FedEx how to run its business, it's the Ocasio Cortezes of the Democratic Party, as if they have any idea